as Ed said, what I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about is really sort of the next big challenge as it relates to harnessing all your data out of these new platforms, which is how do you actually get to the insights quickly, and how do you make sense of the insights coming out of all these different repositories as you amass more data over time. You all know this particular issue here, which is that we face today, which is that there's just a shortage of data scientists, and there's only so much that we're going to be able to do with respect to solving that problem. But in addition to the issue with not having enough data scientists today, there's also a bigger issue as it relates to the shortage of data managers and what needs to happen in order to educate them on how to actually get the kind of insights they need to draw out of the data that's now available to them. So not only are we in a situation today where there are just not enough data scientists, and there never will be if you look at the rate of data growth, but in addition to that, we have a problem with respect to how you actually get data managers and line of business managers to fully appreciate the insights and value that they can now get out of their data. In fact, if you put all of these people today in one place, we would create the 5th largest city in the United States, behind the 4 that you see here in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Houston. And that's how bad the problem already is. If much of the event over the next couple days has focused on and is focused on the emergence of all these new data platforms from the likes of Cloudera, Hadoop, Hortonworks, Teradata, so on and so forth, that are very much driven around how do you store masses of data at scale. But what we also see is, in addition to private data exploding across enterprises as a result of organizations being able to store a lot more of it more cost effectively, there's also a huge surge of data from external sources that presents very interesting opportunities. And if leveraged the right way, and if brought together with your private data the right way, can really allow you to recognize and drive insights that lead to some pretty significant opportunities, both from a revenue standpoint. And understanding your customers and so on and so forth. If you look back about 5 years ago, there were less than 100 open data APIs out there, and today we have about 7,000 open data APIs available. And these open data APIs include sources like social data sources, such as Twitter, Facebook, companies like Netflix that have opened up their APIs as well, so you can now access that data more readily. Various different sources like Google Public Data. And if you can go on and on, look at all these APIs and realize that across all of these external sources is a wealth of data that anyone can now go and access at a very low cost, and if brought together in an effective way with your private data, presents a lot of interesting new opportunities as it relates to data managers being able to drive insights that they couldn't get to before. So it's not just about bringing together hordes of data in the new platforms that are now available, but how do you also bring this together with the data that's externally available all across the web today and continues to grow at a pretty rapid pace. So why do companies want to do this? Like, why do you want to pull together your private data with public sources? Let me go through a couple of examples here on the value of doing so. In this particular situation, this is an organization that wanted to get a better understanding of public data as it relates to water lines going through the city of Zanesville, Ohio, and understand the location of households along those water lines and what the makeup of all those households were. So if you are able to actually pull together the data associated with these water lines, the locations of all these households, and the ethnic makeup or makeup of the people living in these households in a very effective way, you're able to now actually drive an insight that could actually give you a better look into how to service these households better. In this particular case, by bringing together the data from the public sources that were readily available together with the private data, which was the makeup of the households, this organization was able to get to a new insight to the tune of about $11 million in new opportunity as it relates to how they could service households that they couldn't service before. These are the kinds of things that you can now do when it comes to pulling private data together with public data, and this is just the beginning. Looking at another example here, as you fuse data from many private sources, as your repositories continue to grow, your existing legacy relational repositories combined with your new big data platforms, there's a massive need and a very urgent need to be able to pull all those data sources together and aggregate data from multiple sources in order to, again, drive insights that you couldn't get to easily before. In this particular case, if you, for example, can pull your clickstream data together effectively with your online sales data and your product SKU data, and if you can do this in an effective way at scale, you have the opportunity to optimize the collection of products within users' baskets to maximize a profit margin. So actually identify how many products and of what kind actually drive the maximum profit margin when a user actually checks out from with a particular transaction. So there are these type of opportunities as it relates to pulling data together from private sources, and as we grow the number of private data sources across organizations, this is going to become critically important. Just another quick example, as you look at web data sources, if you effectively pull together data from your website visitors and you combine that with your SEO trends and SEO response times and actually watch from the public data realm the algorithm changes from Google, you can identify what is actually happening with respect to the SEO trends that you have invested in and the response. So again, combining website visitor information with Google algorithm changes to understand changes in SEO optimization. These, again, are new opportunities that didn't exist before that are now readily available. How did we get here? So everything that has brought us to this point where we now have the ability to actually tap into many different data sources was brought about by a lot of the technology advances over the last 5 years, spanning the ability to actually now house vast farms of diverse data storage, cheaper memory, which gets us to more effective in-memory processing, blazing computer speeds that we didn't have before, and then a whole suite of new advanced algorithms and machine learning techniques that are emerging that, again, has contributed a lot to where we are today and will continue to be a huge factor with respect to how we harness data in the future. And that's all well and good, but the most valuable thing, besides just the technology advances that are happening in the areas I just talked about, is our ability to deliver tools to the market and tools to customers that really aid in human insight. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to do away with human insight as it relates to gleaming the right insights out of your data. No amount of machine learning, advanced algorithms, or new technologies on the big data side are going to take away or solve this particular problem. If you look at some of what we're grappling with today as it relates to aiding human insight, about a third of analysts are still relying on this gut feeling to make decisions. That's a problem right there. You've got half of analysts who have absolutely no transparency into how decisions are actually made and how anyone in an organization arrived at a particular insight or a conclusion. And many managers feel that they need to now get to new ways to actually understand how to glean insights out of the data and need new training. We're not going to solve this problem with just the big data platforms and the technologies that I just talked about a minute ago. What needs to happen is the delivery of new tools that allow a user to not just get to their data more effectively, but tools that actually aid the user in guiding them through the analysis and arriving at the right conclusion and getting meaning out of this data. So we saw the last 30 years focus on this $35 billion industry that we've created today around databases and data platforms, and we continue to see that grow with the emergence of all the new big data platforms. But the next 5 to 7 years, we believe, is really about making it easy to find data that's available in external sources and across your enterprise, bring that data together from multiple sources, both public and private sources effectively, and balance this with making it easy for business managers and data managers to be able to draw insights of that data while giving them a strong way to actually guide them through that process and balancing that with their judgment and experience. We can't leave it all to technology. We can't leave it all to the tools that are emerging that sit above this data stack. But there is a great opportunity ahead here to actually deliver in those tools a lot of guides and a lot of tips and cues on how to actually guide through your data, navigate through your data, and arrive at the right conclusion. Because one of the dangers we face is that with more data, you can also basically create a situation where data managers just arrive at the wrong conclusion because they're just bombarded and overwhelmed with the amount of data that they're looking at. So we call this problem, or a focus here, this notion of aiding human insight, how we bring big data together and amplify it with human intelligence and actually deliver a new set of tools that actually help the user arrive at the insight that they need to get to. So if you look at the last decade, where we were is a world of structured data and very constrained data models. And because of the constraint of these data models, you weren't able to actually explore data in a very open and free way. You basically arrived at a conclusion based on the nature of the data model itself. So we were working with constrained data models. We're working with very conclusive constrained dashboards, which was really the old approach to BI. And we were also working in a situation where you could only sample data out of these sources, which basically limited your insight into the data itself. We're now moving to a new era and a new world here where tools are now going to be able to give you the ability to access data from anywhere at any time, and working against a more open data model versus being constrained by the old data models of the past. So we are moving forward into very guided, intuitive exploration of data and making sense of data at scale. Is the right answer to all this just better visualizations? That's only one part of the answer. Sophisticated visualizations will allow us to basically present more data to the user, but it's not necessarily the full answer because you're going to not be able to understand what the data means. So it needs to go beyond sophisticated visualizations to tools that actually show you what that data means and how to actually glean the right insight and how to navigate through them. So just to summarize this, we are at this next big opportunity in big data, which is knowing how to get data out of diverse sources and knowing how to find it. Making it very simple with a new suite of tools that will emerge that makes data exploration very iterative and very guided and allows you to get to insights in a progressive way. And finally, tools that actually aid in human insight and don't necessarily basically just throw too much data up on the screen and leave it to the user to try and figure out what it all means. So with that, I thank you all for taking the time today. I'm going to turn this, I think we're running tight on time here, so I'm going to turn this over to our next speaker. And that's yours.